time to do another actual painting stream, and today we are, as I mentioned last time, painting up the one, the only Averick Brightmoon. This is a mini constructed from Hero Forge for my current primary D&D character, and I will be gaming with him this coming Saturday. So the goal today is to get him tabletop ready. So I'm going to start out by just building up some base tones. I'm not going to do anything crazy fancy today. Just apply some base stuff just to where I have enough coloration to where from a distance he appears, well, painted. What I've done so far is I've applied a grey undercoat because I like using grey as a primer. Black is by far the more popular colour. I personally like using grey. I think it makes the details a little easier to identify, and it makes the resulting mini pop a bit more than the black does. What I've also done is apply just a black wash to already help, just because with the Hero Forge Mini being black in its casting, it's a little difficult to start to see the details on it. So I applied that wash, and given as heavily armoured as he is, helps really identify just some of the details as I'm going in and doing this. The problem with the pose I've given him is because the Hero Forge minis ship obviously in one piece, being 3D printed. There's this area right here between his hammer and his body that's going to be extremely difficult, and I did not think about that when I was designing the poses and the whatnot. So starting out with a khaki on the pantaloons. The cape in the back is also making this extraordinarily difficult to get in there. So we've already got his the khaki. It actually makes him look like he's kind of Donald Duck in it there. There we go. I figured out a way to get the focus working a little better. We'll apply some washers later to make that a lot darker, so it looks less like he's just not wearing any pants at all. And then we're going to go on some leather. Actually, do I have leather? Yes. So just for the base of his boots, which are very heavily armoured, but I want the actual there's a little bit of leather showing there, so I want to get that displayed. And historically, just my own personal aesthetic, I generally have leaned to do a lot of darker minis. Averick being the paladin of Sarenrae that he is, he's going to be a very light-toned colour scheme, so this is going to be something a little interesting for me. Something new and different. Because I'm going to have to learn how to shade white, which is not the easiest thing in the world from everything I've read. So this will be a new experience. Okay, that's good. get just to the heel down here. I'm not worrying too much about overlapping some of the metal parts because I'm about to go through and apply some metallic paint to those anyway. Similarly, I'm going to leave off the belts for now because I'm going to jack those up when I go and do the metallic parts anyway. Alright, that's a good enough base. So we got, there we go. Alright, so we're going to do the old chainmail silver. Actually, I think what I'll do just to make it slightly different, we're going to do chainmail silver for the body and gunmetal for the boots. Just because I like the idea of having a little bit of a differentiation between the two, and Averick is not the type of person who would really care about whether he matches or not. That's just not the type of stuff he pays attention to. So we'll start out with those boots. We're going to do the bottom and work our way up because why not? That makes a certain degree of sense to me. So let's move that down just a bit. Alright. There we go. Can't really tell a lot of difference between the grey and the metallic, probably. Oh no, on the camera it seems to show a little better. It's not the, it's kind of a rush job on that, but we are going to apply some washes to that to make some of that pop a little more. Alright, so let's do his breastplate. Alright, go. Tassets. That hammer is really getting in my way right now. I'm kind of regretting that decision. But it's okay. it'll all be good. He is to game with. He is not in any way any kind of a painting competition entry or anything like that. So wrap up that Gnoll King over up here in Idle Champions. There we go. His pauldrons, and then onto what I may do later is obtain some metallic blue to go into a little more detail work on some of these areas, like maybe onto the pauldrons or onto the gauntlets. Just because he's got, I want to have a lot of blue and white elements showing up, being as the Sarenrae design. Canonically, his shield actually has the symbol of Sarenrae emblazoned onto it, but I don't think I am talented enough to freehand that, so that's going to be one of those areas where the mini does not live up to the actual characterization. Okay. I suppose the advantage for a halfling mini is at least there's less area to paint. Didn't really think about that. I was more worried about, oh, he's so small, the detail work's going to be so difficult, but didn't think of the actual benefit that there's simply just less of him to paint. So we've got his armor. He's starting to get all shiny. Alright. Let's check in on things up here. Advance that along. Alright. Normally, I tend to do things like, okay, get all the base coats done in, so I'd go on and do something like the hammer or the face next, but I actually think I'm going to mix it up a little bit this time and just get done. Get done with the bits down here. So we got excuse me while I dig up my washers. Alright, so let's start with just the good old default, the Nuln Oil, all over the place. Oh dear, my apparently last time I did this I didn't seal it properly. There we go. Please tell me it hasn't dried. No, we're good. Alright, so we're going to go with the Nuln Oil, just kind of all over it to bring back out those details. There we go. Looking pretty decent. I'll bust out some Seraphim Sepia. Sepia? I don't know how to pronounce that one. For the leather and the trousers. I'm going to go pretty heavy on this with the actual pants because I want those to darken quite a bit. Yeah. And then down here with the leather on those boots. Groovy. Alright, so let's bust back out our leather. Let's start doing his belts and whatnot. Now we got to start getting a bit more cautious. Looking decent. I'm not going to worry over much about getting with the belt around the back because you can't see it beyond the cape anyway. Whilst normally it would annoy me, in fact it still is annoying me, that even to not paint, even if you can't see the bits, I still want them to be done, just because I'll know they're not done. But in this case, again, with the Mini being as assembled in a single piece as it is, it's just not practical to do that. Looking all right. In my head I had him wearing actual gauntlets, but now I'm actually looking at this Mini, those are clearly just gloves, so we're going to just give him some gloves there instead, as opposed to leaving those as the metallic that I had them done in originally. That does mean now getting in around this hammer, which is a royal pain in the arse. A little more. Just get up against the shield there. There we go. Alright. Fuck this hammer. I hate it. Alright. I think we're looking mostly solid on that. So we've got some of the details there now are coming out. Like I said, what I really want to do is get some like a light metallic blue to go over things like the gauntlets and whatnot, but I simply don't have that right now, so that's not going to happen. What I do want to do is do an initial coat of a white on his little... I don't know what you call that thing. What's the it's not the loincloth, it's the... I don't know, the little bit that hangs down where the loincloth would be, but it's just like a decorative little dangly bit here. Since I want that to be white, that's going to be several coats to make that smooth, so we're gonna do one of those right now. There we go. Actually, whilst we're doing some white, since this is also going to be something that requires that, let's take some of that and start doing the interior of the shield and then the cape itself. Because in order to make this as smooth as possible, it's going to take a little bit of doing. So with those large areas, to avoid them having just a crap load of brush strokes immediately visible. Yeah, the white from a distance it's looking pretty decent. I'm going to do a little bit thicker on the cape. Now what we're going to do later is we're going to kind of basically cover this whole thing again with some increasingly lightened greys until we're back to doing just pure white just for the highlights. But for right now, let's just get this first coat gone. And again, a little more interested right now in just getting kind of a view from tabletop eye of this is Averick, this is what he looks like. Doing the inside of this cape is particularly challenging, just because I did not factor in at all painting this when adding one. Don't give your minis capes unless they're detached, people. You'll hate yourself. Good enough. Alright. Cape. You can see it's not looking so hot because of those marks, but we're starting to get somewhere with him. Take a few more coats of white. We'll get there eventually. Alright, I think next let's take some of the gunmetal and we're going to do the head of the hammer and then the hilt. Fortunately, at this point the hammer is in no way magical. It's simply a large, heavy thing that he hits things with. So I don't need to make it look particularly fancy. It's just a big, heavy lump of metal to smack things with. That's good. Let's paint on the spiked butt. Her. the same thing, and we're going to do the edges of the shield, I think, while we're here. Because again, being a slightly larger area, this is probably going to take a few coats to get it looking nice and smooth. There we go, got a little metal outline around the shield now. Okay. And since it looks like there's a bit of a wrapping around that hammer, let's, just for a slightly different tone, let's take some earth tone for that one, I think. I'm really hating getting in on these little nooks and crannies. Really appreciating painting minis before they're assembled right now. It's so much easier. There we go. Alright. Looking decent. Let's do another layer of white. Good. I don't know if you can tell on the camera much, but you can see as I layer in, the brush strokes are becoming less and less visible. Although I do need to put just a little more on there before I go back onto the cape. think I'm going to leave the inside as is at this point, because the inside would be, obviously the inside is not going to be near as visibly white as the outside, being as it's on the inside and therefore shadowed. And that's my justification for just not wanting to do it. Let's move on there. Oh, I need to put another coat of white on his little dangly thing. Shouldn't be calling his little the thing that's dangling over his crotch his little dangly thing, but here we are. Okay. Let's give him I've got some brass here. So he's got his little buckle on his. As you can see it, I think you can see it in that preview image. There's a little brass buckle on the. What is it? I keep wanting to call it a belt. It's not a belt, but the thing that's going over his chest there. So let's just take a real fine pointed brush and just a little bit of brass. This is where it's going to get tricky. Just picking out the real detail work here. Just because I want it to be a different coloured metal than the rest of his armour, just so it stands out. And we'll do the same thing for the one that definitely is a belt around his waist. That was white. That was almost really bad. Actually, I want to just to make it stand out a bit, I'm going to add some brass to the joints on his greaves as well. There we go. And then take some magic blue, because he's got a little tiny chest gem. I want to add just a little bit of visibility to that. It's really more of a clasp, but I've decided it's a gem. There we go. It's just that little bit of blue. There we go. We're coming along. I think at this point Yep. Let's take another. This chainmail silver. Can I have some actual silver? got some actual silver, so we're going to use that for just a little bit of edge highlighting. Okay. We'll do there we go. It's looking good. So we applied just that silver bit around the edges. I don't know how well it's going to show up, but just to kind of make the edge of those gauntlets stand out a bit more. Looking good, looking good. Alright, let's go back. Let's really make him stand out now by applying some flesh tones. Now then, my boy here is a halfling, but we're going to go with some dwarf flesh. He spends most of his time out doing paladin-y things. He's a little more toned, a little more tanned. We're starting to get his flesh tone there on his face. It's going to take another layer of that in a bit. In the meantime, let's see what I can do to mix up his hair colour. Hi, Kiros. Hey, buddy. Can you say hi? What's up? Kiros has decided that he is going to demand attention at this point. Hi, buddy. Hi. Hello. Alright, so let's start for his hair. He's got kind of his hair colour is like reddish brown, but given who Avrik is as a person, hello Kiros, you decided to come and say hello onto the stream. Hello. Let's do just a base layer of filthy brown, which seems really appropriate for Avrik. And then we'll shade and highlight and all that fun stuff from there. After this layer is done, I think it's time to pause the stream for a bit, because Kiros has decided it's time he needs to go and get walked. Well, this is going on much brighter than I anticipated. This wouldn't be a horrible start if he was a blonde, but he's not. Alright, so we can see it's the wrong shade there. We can darken that later though. But we compare to the let's get you over there, compared to the initial startup, compared to where we were when we started. We're starting to look a lot more like Avrik. There we go, that's better. we've come quite a decent ways. Obviously the face looks extremely flat right now, but that's just because it's just got its first coat on, so that's going to look a lot better by the time we're done. Oh, you decided to go to sleep now. Let's do just another coat onto the shield. Nice and thin, so we don't get brush strokes. All right. Yeah, boy. Yeah, we're not looking too bad. Let's see. Just because I don't like leaving it that way. Where's my... Oh, I got it out already. Alright, let's just apply, just before I wrap up for now, wrap up that face just a little bit with some Ogryn Flesh Wash, which is basically skill in a paint pot. Because I want to see that face look a little better than what it currently does. That's too much on there. So let's get this wash going. I want to see more of that detail. I'm gonna throw some of this over the hair as well. Let's start that darkening process. Looks better. There we go. Wash makes all the difference. Alright, so let's wrap this up for now. I got the dog to go and walk. I'll pick it up. Honestly, as far as tabletop ready, he's pretty much good to go. I'm going to do a little more detail work on him though. I want to get some face highlights going. I want to do his base. But I'll definitely do a lot more with that cape. But yeah, as far as tabletop ready goes, well, I'm not going to do it right now because actually screw it. I am going to do it right now. Let's add that last bit of detail on there, which is some leather brown for Avric's eye patch, just because I really want. It's kind of it's like one of his most defining features, and I think he'll feel a bit more to me like Avric if I have the eye patch on there. So let's just add that in right now. Just because that the eye patch is the one part of this print that I'm not happy with, because it doesn't. You can't really tell in the preview image I put down there on the left, because I sort of deliberately positioned it that way, but the actual eye patch, it loses a lot of definition. This is too light. I need a much darker brown for this. I need a really dark brown. Good old beastie brown. As I was saying, as impressed as I am with the Hero Forge sculpt or print for the most part, the eye patch, I think because it's the thing that you add on to the head rather than it being part of the default mold, or default sculpt rather, it really lost a lot of definition as it gets down towards the lower part of the face. So we're just going to add that in just to make it stand out a bit more. Let's get a little heavy on the actual, just because the differentiation between the patch and the eye socket really isn't there. So I'm going to get very heavy around that area. There you go. I don't know if you can see on camera even. I don't know how well that stands out. There we go. No, it looks decent enough. Well, I almost forgot. Let's add his crappy little goatee beard. There we go. Now he looks like Avric. Alright, it's dog walking time.